Hello there, everyone. This is Andrew Rogers, aka Lords of Gallopay Games, and standing in for Papa Fish Saves, and I'm not sure what his real name is going to be, is Chris Sandridge. He is going to be helping me out with this interview. Smunchy is no longer able to help me out with interviews. He got too busy, which is totally fine. So Chris, today's topic is Vangorsht, the half giant founder of Rome. What is your first question?
Well, one thing I find really interesting, looking at the character design,
And
it makes me wonder.
by the way, people, in case you're wondering, yes, this is Vangorsht here. So yeah, I figured I'd get that out of the way. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I'm curious to know. I mean, within your work in your world, Gallopay, there seems to be quite a lot of influential players known for various elements of strength and power. What would you say is something that Vangorsht, what makes him stand out in that regard? Does he have certain traits that make him noteworthy?
Well, Vangorsht isn't exactly influential in the world other than founding Rome, which in and of itself is a huge feat. But anyone could have founded Rome. I mean, it's just not anyone did. The greatness of Vangorsht comes in the fact that he is reveled as a hero so much and yet refused to become a deity that his legend, the legend of his life, is just so much larger than his actual life.
Okay.
Things like when he was, I believe it was 5 years old. He his grizzly bear parents that he was raised by turned on him, so he uprooted a tree or broke down a tree, depending on the version you're looking at. And it was a large oak tree, and he beat them to death with his large oak tree that he either broke down or uprooted at the age of 5.
Ah, I see.
And then
So,
and then it just got weirder from there.
do you have any? Has it been established how some of these stories about him may have come about, or is it just your kind of as ages go on, stories become more tall?
It's more of the latter.
Okay.
He may very well have promoted this as a ruler because he wanted people to fear him.
Right.
He's very much a rule with an iron fist type of guy.
So very despotic, might makes right kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean the kingdoms that occupied the area of that Rome came to occupy, that he overthrew single-handedly without any weapons or armor. Those kingdoms all had followers that did not want to see them go, and he had many assassination attempts put on him that he overcame and just absolutely brutally humiliated those assassins at their death.
Interesting.
And another great thing about this character is he was not just a skilled fighter, a skilled leader, a skilled conqueror. He was a skilled blacksmith.
Oh, excellent.
In game terms, or what in real life would be weaponsmith and armorsmith.
Right. Just another question. Piggybacking off of that, did he create any? Given his smithing capabilities, did he ever create any weapons or armor that are particularly known? Like even in history, some weapons are develop a famed reputation. Would you say that's the case with anything that he made?
He did, but they were buried with him.
Oh, okay.
And the idea of them was lost with his death.
Right.
The sword and the spiked gauntlet you see in the picture, along with his breastplate, were created by him.
Oh.
And they were all buried with him, and
Mm-hmm.
he was, yeah, and that was the end of those weapons and that armor's tale.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like in Harry Potter where Dumbledore gets buried with the Elder Wand and it gets stolen from him. No.
Right.
It actually stayed buried with him.
Hmm.
Another tidbit of information that
Mm-hmm.
I have just come up with over the past few days. The original ruler of Eternity Empire was Vangorst's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The possessive of Vangorsht.
Yeah, Vangorsht, I think. So you'd say that. It's
Yeah,
kind of
it's kind of
difficult
a
to say.
tongue twister.
Yeah, a little bit.
His son, not his brother, his
Mm-hmm.
son became the first Eternity Emperor before the
Oh,
Lord of the
really?
Dead.
Oh, wow.
And he was the guy who found all of the jewels that were supposed to regulate the changing of environmental factors in Eternity Empire. But we will get
Mm-hmm.
to that for a later day.
Okay. During Vangorst's rule in Rome, was there anything culturally significant that he contributed or perhaps paved the way towards? Like anything that's different from
Yes.
other empires?
Vangorsht created an empire that there were two things. One, he
Mm-hmm.
created an empire that was so effective at conquering and so influential for its time, although it was short lived, dying out shortly after he perished, of old age, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his empire was so effective that Inferno, the deity of all evil deities, devils, and demons,
Mm-hmm.
he decided to take over Rome as it would help him quite a bit.
Right.
While Vangorsht was no, this was not while Vangorsht was still living. This was after Vangorsht had died, just after Vangorsht had died. I think it was his successor or his successor's successor.
Mm-hmm.
And Inferno opened a rift just out of Rome's territory and just decimated Rome. And that
Mm.
started the first assault on hell by the what was it called? The divine powers. I forget what they were called exactly. But
Mm-hmm.
there's this coalition of divine powers that assaulted hell in the attempt to wipe out all of hell and keep and save the mortal plane from hell's dominion, which failed, but ended
Mm-hmm.
up with a treaty saying as long as Rome would be uninhabited by mortals, they hell would no longer interfere with the mortal plane directly by invading it
Uh,
until Front
uh,
came along.
right. Oh, by the way, you did earlier. You mentioned that Vangorsht declined godhood or deification, if you prefer the term.
Mm-hmm.
What was the story behind that? What was his reason?
He did he although he loved being admired and he
Mm-hmm.
loved being seen as a powerful figure,
Mm-hmm.
he was a little bit more complicated than the stories would make it seem.
Mm-hmm.
And he believed that a mortal should not be worshipped.
Mm.
A mortal should not be worshipped. And worshipping is one of the main key features, along with the sufficient power, that can propel a mortal to godhood.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty much all you need. You need enough power and you need the followers.
Gotcha. Um, are there any other details about him or anything that he affected that you find
Oh,
are?
yeah, that's right. The other thing.
Mhm.
I got too much in a tangent. Sorry.
That's all right. You're doing fine.
So the other thing was Vangorsht conquered the Draco civilization.
Oh wow, that's an accomplishment.
Now the Dracos were basically, if you're familiar with D&D, they're basically Dragonborn. But before
Hmm.
Dragonborn were a big thing, this was back in the days of third edition, not 3.5, 3.0,
Right.
when Dragonborn just weren't a thing, as
Hmm.
far as I know at least. And Draco were my idea of what they were. They were pretty much the same thing, but except maybe the origins. I don't know too much about Dragonborn. I just know what they look like. They looked pretty much the same thing. They were one of the 3 original races to exist. One of the 3
Oh.
original mortal races.
Hmm.
And they had an empire that lasted from early Forgotten World all the way to their fall by the hands of Rome. However, Vangorsht, while he conquered the Draco Empire, was never able to conquer their capital.
Hmm.
And that capital stayed around for many, many more millennium.
Uh, what was the reason that he wasn't able to take the capital? Was it a matter of
It's a matter
insufficient
if he couldn't
forces?
find it.
Oh, okay.
It went underground, literally. They built an
Oh.
underground sandstone capital in North America, I believe.
Oh, really?
Just off the coast of North America.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they just stayed there.
Mm.
And that is where the Peasants of Power, by the way, hid for the majority of Galapagos history.
Okay. Was there any particular event or reason that caused Vangorsht to war with the Draco Empire?
He wanted their stuff.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't so much of a feud or anything. It was more of a
No,
conquest.
that's why he wanted to conquer anything. I
Ah,
want their stuff.
fair enough. I mean, hey, how else are you gonna get resources? I suppose.
For glory and gold, forget God.
There you go, I guess.
Is there any other questions you would like to ask?
Did Vangorsht have a particular deity he worshipped, or was he more just about himself?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sure he did have a deity he worshipped. It wouldn't be Frunk because of the timing, and that would be the
Right.
only reason it wouldn't be Frunk.
Yeah.
Probably Gome, the
Mm.
deity of brute force.
Ah, good choice.
I mean, and it probably wouldn't have been a demigod at all, so it probably definitely wouldn't have been Frunk. Because Frunk was a demigod, i.e.,
Right.
a mortal that became a deity.
Right.
I know that's not the historical definition of a demigod, but I don't care. But yeah, it probably would have been Gome, because Gome was originally a deity. He had always been a deity.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a very prominent deity in giant society. Vangorsht
Mm-hmm.
definitely took after his giant side more than his human side.
Mm-hmm.
And brute force just, oh man, that screams Vangorsht.
Well, I think that's all I can. I
All
think
right.
that covers it pretty well.
Well, next week I hope to have Papa Fish Saves, and again, I'm sorry I don't know his real name, uh, on with me talking about either Balor 3 Eye or Mr. Kappa. So if y'all could post in the comments what you'd prefer me to talk about, Mr. Kappa being I believe I took that from Japanese mythology, right, Chris?
That you did.
And Mr. Kappa became the last being to have dominion over magic. And he is a prominent figure in the Superheroes of Gallipay storyline because he's the only being with magic at that point. And then, so that'd be really fun. But I have some new artwork for Balor 3 Eye. Not Balor as in the D&D Balor, where it's a big demon with fiery swords and whips and stuff like that. No. I'm talking about Balor as in the original, my version of the original idea of Balor. Only it's Balor 3 Eye, not Balor 1 Eye. I think he was supposed to have 1 eye. Never mind. Anyway, just give me a shout out as to what you'd prefer. And I will put a link to my Patreon page where you can look at more history of Gallipay. And a link to my Discord group, or my Discord server, where you can vote on the next stories for my videos and the next stories for Patreon and all that good stuff. And thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk to you later.